Okay.
All right, thank you.
All right. Well, sorry about that. How about is the 843 the phone number? Yeah, who was the phone number? That was Lee. Okay, Lee Batchelder. All right. All right. Well, let's kick this off. Sorry for a couple of little technical difficulties there, but here we are. We're at the August 4th, 2021 Board of Zoning Appeals Site Design meeting. This is a slide that describes the virtual meeting protocol. Staff will control the slides displayed throughout the meeting. Applicants, staff, board members, and members of the public should give their name first whenever speaking. Applicants and members of the public must be sworn in before speaking for the first time. Only attendees who have registered to speak before the deadline at noon today may speak during the meeting. Video and microphone have been disabled for all attendees. Attendees will only be given the capabilities to speak when they are called on during the public comment period. Board members who need to recuse themselves from voting will be temporarily removed from the meeting and readmitted prior to addressing the next item. If the board needs to go into executive session, they will call into a separate conference line, and all video and audio on Zoom will be temporarily turned off until they are ready to return to the regular meeting. Chat has been disabled for everyone. And of course, this meeting is a public meeting and is being recorded. With that, I hand it over to our chairperson, Joel Adrian.
Thank you, Eric. This is the August 4th, 2021 meeting of the City of Charleston Board of Zoning Appeals Site Design. Present are Amanda Barton, Paula Murphy, Jeff Webb, myself, Joel Adrian. Present from the planning staff, Eric Schultz, Lee Batchelder. And then we also have Haywood Grimble with us as well. These proceedings are being recorded. We ask that those who speak identify themselves for the record. We will conduct this meeting in usual fashion. We will first receive information from city staff about the application and their recommendation. If the recommendation is favorable and no one objects to the application, usually the Board of Zoning Appeals treats the matter as being uncontested and passes it as a matter of course. If, however, the city recommends against the application or there is opposition to the application, we treat the application as contested and hear from the applicant and anyone else who is in favor of the application. Next, hear from anyone opposed, followed by a short rebuttal from the applicant. We then close the public hearing portion of the meeting for that particular application and open discussion to the Board of Zoning Appeals members only. We will then make a decision to approve with conditions, or deny the application. Board of Zoning Appeals Site Design has the authority to do three things. 1, hear appeals to decisions of the zoning administrator. 2, grant special exceptions, a fact-finding function of the board. And 3, grant variances to a zoning ordinance if the application meets the hardship test outlined in section 54.924 of the ordinance. The board may deliberate and make a final decision on a matter by a majority vote of members present at the hearing and qualified to vote, provided that not less than a quorum are present and qualified to vote. For a variance to be granted, the Board of Zoning Appeals must make the following findings. A, there are extraordinary and exceptional conditions pertaining to the particular piece of property. B, these conditions do not generally apply to other property in the vicinity. C, because of these conditions, the application of the ordinance to the particular piece of property would effectively prohibit or unreasonably restrict the utilization of the property. And D, the authorization of a variance will not be of substantial detriment to the adjacent property or to the public good. The character of the district will not be harmed by the granting of the variance.
Very good. Thank you.
That said,
Very
we'll
good.
go back to Eric.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Public comment. Order on each application. The chair announces each application followed by staff presentation and recommendation. Staff will call on the applicant to present their application after being sworn in by the chair. Staff will open the public comment to receive comments from registered attendees in favor, first spoken, then written. Each speaker will be sworn in by the chair. Staff will then recognize registered attendees for public comments in opposition after a speaker is sworn in, first spoken, then written. Staff will recognize the applicant for a short rebuttal. And then, of course, the chair will then close the public comment period and begin board discussion. Providing comment, if you have submitted a request to speak on an item before the deadline, staff will call on your name when it is your turn to speak and enable your microphone. Your microphone will be disabled after you're done speaking. And you can only speak once for each item, and you must state your name and address for the record, or you will not be permitted to provide comment. Board discussion. Following public comment period, board members can make comments, ask questions, and make motions. After a motion and a second, board members will vote aye in favor, nay, not in favor. If the vote is not unanimous, the chair will poll each member for their vote. The chairman shall announce the vote on the motion and the final decision on the application. If a board member needs to recuse him or herself, they will be temporarily removed from the meeting and placed back in the meeting at the start of the next agenda item. And if the board needs to go into executive session, they will call into a separate conference line, and all video and audio on Zoom will be temporarily turned off until they are ready to return to the regular meeting. So with that said, we have a number of items that have been either deferred or withdrawn. So for the record, I'd like to state those. Item A2, 75 Chadwick Drive, has been deferred by the applicant. It will not be heard tonight. Item A3, Fenwick Hall, LA, has been deferred tonight. It will not be heard. Moving on to item under B, B4, 70 Line Street, has been withdrawn. With that said, we can begin with item B1.
Or we need to do item A1, the approval.
Oh,
of minutes.
A1, I'm sorry, yes, A1, yes. The
All right.
minutes from July 7th.
Yes.
I make a motion, we move to approve.
Second.
Okay, so that was motion by Amanda, seconded by Paula. All in favor of approval of minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed, say nay. All right, the minutes are approved, 4-0.
Mr. Chairman, you may recognize that Kelvin Hugie has joined us.
Aye in favor.
Very good, thank you.
Fantastic. Calvin is here, so it is now 5-0. Excellent. So now we will move on to item B1, is 2620 Clements Ferry Road. The application number is 210804B1. The TMS number 271001035. Request a one-year extension of two variances granted by the board on June 5th, 2019. Requested variance with section 54.327 to allow the removal of 46 grand trees. Requested variance with section 54.330 to allow a reduced impervious construction setback near the bases of 13 grand trees, zone GB.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. This is the application, and please note the date that it was received, May 19th, 2021. There was a glitch on the city end where it did not get placed on the requested June 2nd. But because it was submitted and it was complete, we're okay in that regard. But basically, this is a request for an one-year extension. The site is on Clements Ferry Road, as shown here, zone GB. Here's the zoning map. As you can see, GB up front with DR1F to the rear. As you can see, it's a wooded site today. It does have the existing Enterprise Boulevard that traverses through the site to access the Cooper River Farms apartments on the Cooper River shoreline. This is the, if you notice, the application said see attached. This is the approval response, or the mail back that we give the applicant after the June 5th, 19th meeting, has your signature on it and approved with staff conditions. This is the document that we send back. It has in the upper right corner, it has our stamp where I sign it and date it and add some conditions. And then I kind of blew that up and put it on the upper left, if you will. What I did, I went back to the June 5th meeting and I incorporated the slides from that meeting. So this is a repeat. It's from June 5th, 19th, as you can see, or 2019. Again, the zoning, the aerial. And this is the plan that was contemplated. As you can see, there was numerous grand trees. And this is proposed to be a mixed-use development. And it's very critical to understand that this exhibit at the time showed a public road, a new public road proposed. And that's that dark gray road to the lower plan bottom, if you will. And then it makes an L 90-degree turn to the south. And that's important for our future connection in the Cainhoy area. But you can see that there was a parcel labeled City of Charleston Fire Station. So the city is in desperate need to get a fire station built in the Cainhoy Peninsula area. They've been working with this particular developer to acquire that site. A lot of moving parts here, and that's why they haven't really kicked off any construction and are asking for the extension. Between the city, Berkeley County, and SCDOT, I believe there is very close to an agreement that this intersection, this new road where it ties into Clements Ferry Road, will be a signalized intersection. It opposes a road that serves a fairly large subdivision on the east. And of course, with a fire station proposed, it's very important that we have controlled access onto and off of Clements Ferry Road. So a lot of behind the scenes efforts to work with SCDOT. Many of you may know that this section of Clements Ferry Road was recently completed, the widening phase 1 project. So there is no median in that particular area right now due to the access drive to the subdivision that opposes this proposed public road. So that was very critical, a very critical component to the whole plan. Of course, there's planned office, there's planned retail, surface parking, as you can see, and also a multifamily apartment building that would be actually an extension of Cooper River Farms. Back then, 2 years ago, myself and the applicant, walked the entire site, verified the tree grades, and they did a really good job, in our opinion, at that time, to work around all the B grade trees. They're the blue trees shown here. Save some C grade trees and sacrifice basically C and D grade trees. And then of course there were a few F grade trees. So again, many of you weren't here or participated on the board, but that's just a little bit of a background and why the project hasn't moved at a faster pace. And it's all due to that very critical intersection to access, or to one day we'll have our firehouse on it. These were some other exhibits about small encroachments and trees to be saved around buildings and parking. This was the tree list. These were the conditions. Please note that they have not changed. A very large number of caliber inches will be required to be planted back on the site, and the other typical conditions the city recommended and you all approved. So with that said, staff recommends approval to extend the previous approval for 1 year to 6/5/22. And with that said, I'll look at my attendees list, and if I could have Scott, if you could promote Patterson Farmer, Rivers Cape, Patterson and Rivers. Can you hear us?
Yes, sir. How you doing this afternoon, Eric?
Very good, Patterson. Who else should I identify as part of your team?
Austin Tinsley should be on. If you don't see his name, let me know and I can give you his phone
We
number.
do. I see his name, Austin, Rivers, and yourself?
Yes, sir. And Rivers is here with me in the same room. So yeah, that's just the three of us here.
Okay, I want to turn it back over to the chairman and he'll do his thing and swear you in.
Great.
All right, thank you, Eric. Did you say all three of you are in the same room?
Rivers and I are in the same room. Austin is on a different line there, but he should be able to unmute his line now, I guess so.
All right. Well, then one at a time answer, but the swearing in is, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
I do.
And the last, so there were three of y'all. If I need to hear three, I do's.
Austin, you out there?
I see his name drop. I don't know if that's his phone number, 729-1063.
Nope, I think you got me now. I do.
Okay,
There we go.
All right. Austin, so do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Excellent. So Patterson, the floor is yours to speak. And if you would, all of you, whoever speaks, just state your full name and your address for the record.
Yes, sir. Great. Thank you, Joel. Patterson Farmer with Seaman Whiteside and Associates, 501 Wando Park Boulevard, Mount Pleasant, South Carolina. Thank you, Eric, and thank you, everybody, for your time this evening. Yes, just as Eric said, we did come before y'all a little over 2 years ago, and with this original request, and tonight we are requesting the 1 year extension. The reason for that is due to we have been working with DOT, the county, and the city for a couple of years here, working on the agreement for the signalized intersection there which is Beresford Run today, and where our new road will align. And that agreement is in place. So we are currently working on our permit drawings for that, as well as working on the permit drawings that come before the city for the on-site improvements and development here. We're certainly very excited about this project, the mixed-use component of it, from office, commercial, restaurants, residential, and then the future City of Charleston fire station. We're available here tonight for any comments and or questions. I'll turn it back over to y'all.
All right, thank you. Does anybody else want to speak on behalf of the application? If not, Eric, is there anybody registered that was in favor or opposed to the application?
okay, so Mr. Chairman, nobody registered to speak in support or oppose. However, there have been a lot of moving parts here the past couple of days with individuals using our Innovate site to submit comments. They use our board's email address to submit emails. And then, of course, I occasionally get an email sent to me directly. For a project that has been deferred, there were over 108 comments submitted, and I tried our best, staff, our admin staff and myself tried our best to create one file, and we sent those out to you. We hope that you had some time to review those and decipher comments that were relative to any one agenda item. However, I did my best to sort through them, and under basically general, because there had been some media reports about the upcoming agenda. So folks lumped West Ashley, Cane Hoy, James Island, all into one email, if you will. So I had 9 that I counted that were basically general, all basically saying, please do not remove any grand trees, or they're opposed to the tree removal request, basically on the entire agenda. But so that's the best I can do. I don't know if I need to run down. It's there. I hope that you got to kind of take a glimpse at those. But again, I have to remind the general public as well as you all, this is an extension of a previous request to extend for 1 year of previous approval. So that's where we stand with that.
Thank you. Then I guess at this point, we will close the public portion of this agenda item and it'll be open to the board for discussion. And I guess I'll start off and I'll say thank you, Eric. I did receive the comments in email form or in email, and I was able to go through and look at those. You know, I'm personally not a big fan of just general comments. I think every project is unique and specific. Every agenda item unique and has its own conditions to be considered. That said, I do believe that we've approved this, and there have been no changes, and I don't see any reason not to grant the approval for the extension.
I would agree with you, Joel. This is Amanda Barton. And I counted 5, but some of the first responses we got were a little hard to read until we got a later PDF. I had Morris West, Ferguson, McMenamin, Clovis, and Newville sort of saying generally they're opposed to any tree removals. But I think that because of the work that they had to do with DOT and the multiple jurisdictions with the previously approved plan for, with the intersection, I agree with Joel, and I think we should move to approve.
Are there any other comments from the board, or is there a motion to be made?
I'm also in agreement and I make a motion for approval. Paula Murphy.
All right.
I'll second Amanda Barton.
Okay, and I will just go through the roll of everybody present to say aye in favor and nay not in favor. Ms. Barton,
Aye in favor.
Murphy,
I in favor.
Mr. Webb,
Aye in favor.
Mr. Yuji,
I in favor.
and Mr. Adrian is aye in favor. So it is approved for the extension unanimously 5-0. To bring us to our second item on the agenda, item B2, which is 2310 Henry Tecklenburg Drive. The application number 2108-04B2, TMS number 309000262. Requested variance from section 54.327 to allow the removal of 7 grand trees, and request a special exception from section 54.327 to allow the removal of 1 grand tree, zone PUD.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is the application submitted by Forsberg Engineering and Surveying. The site is at the intersection of Henry Tecklenburg and Savage Road on the south side. Note that little triangular piece on this map. That was not part of the PUD, which is known as the Essex Farms Village Center. The applicant brought that piece in to be incorporated into the PUD, and I'll explain that in a minute. So now you see that the map is cleaned up and it's all PUD. As you can see, it's a wooded track with a transmission line that crosses it diagonally there, leaving a wooded patch at the corner of Henry Tecklenburg and Savage, and then the remaining. The light driveway on the south side of that wooded area is an access easement that CWS has. And if you go off the map plan west, there is a CWS pump station further down that gravel road. So this is the boundary survey. This is the protected tree and grand tree survey, as well as some isolated freshwater wetlands. This would be the eastern side, the western side. This is a map that the consulting arborist used to identify by species, size, and grade the grand trees. You can see all those blue marks are the trees. His table. And this is the plan. This plan is a working plan, but it addresses the issues in front of us tonight regarding the trees. So back to the PUD. The PUD is basically, as the title alludes to, Village Center, was set up for office, medical, some residential, and not so much an industrial use. However, Dominion Energy approached the city and they have a facility across the street. I don't know if I picked it up in my aerial. Go back to my aerial. As you can see here, Dominion Energy has a facility on the, let's call it the southeast quadrant of the intersection of Henry Tecklenburg Savage and then Ashley Town Center Road. The majority of that site is actually a substation. They have a very small office in which the engineering group is housed out of. So engineers that are designing new electrical layouts and new subdivisions and electrical distribution line extensions, et cetera, are housed there. And then also they have some limited space for truck parking and equipment. But with the transfer from SCE&G to Dominion, Dominion realized that they have a real issue when it comes to a major storm event in the Charleston area. We all know that we're subject to storms with very high winds, and that causes havoc with electrical distribution and transmission lines. And when there's an event approaching, or there's there's a forecast for something to hit in this region, they pre-mobilize a lot of personnel and equipment, as well as physical equipment to do repairs. So they were looking at the entire Tri-County region and specifically the West Ashley region, and could not find any large enough tract of land to expand. And it came to be that they ended up looking right across the street, basically. However, the PUD did not allow an industrial type use. So they approached the city, had many conversations, ultimately went to the Planning Commission to amend the PUD. And ultimately that was considered by City Council and ratified. But in the discussions, the city had many criteria and many concerns. So the PUD is very tight as far as how this facility should look as one traverses across Henry Tecklenburg, and how this site would fit into a village center, if you will. So with that said, I'll move on to the site plan. Note that the discussions led to pushing the facility as far off of Henry Tecklenburg, except for the face of the office building, a much larger office building, and that's Plan West, if you will, here. That box with a lot of dark rooms in it and what have you is a new engineering and operations facility with the associated parking. And then the large sheds and the gravel area would all be to the east, and of course employee access drives, and of course truck access. And there's an existing road that they will propose to build a driveway that opposes Physicians Drive on Henry Tecklenburg, and then they'll use the existing curb cut, enhance it off of Savage Road, and they've worked out a deal with CWS, Charleston Water Systems, to allow access off their new drive onto their access easement down to their pump station. Note the dashed line that parallels Henry Tecklenburg. That is a required 75-foot landscape buffer to be left undisturbed. There's also language in the PUD that near that shed that's beyond that buffer line, there's to be like a berm built with some plantings on it. We addressed the south side of the site. There's going to be some trees saved and a 8-foot wall built. They have to handle their internal lighting in a specific way so it doesn't spill out into the apartment complex on the south side. They have to design their pavement and their gravel so it's a dust-free material, so it doesn't pick up dust. But this is a very important facility for Dominion, and We feel that they work with the city very hard and close. And the other aspect that's not shown here, but is under development, is along Henry Tecklenburg Drive. There's, if you've driven that, you might have noticed on the south side, on the Dominion project side here, there's an 8-foot multi-use path. And they'll continue that along Henry Tecklenburg, and that's an open space requirement. But at the intersection, they have to build a physical element, whether it's a little shed or gazebo with a water fountain, bike rack, something at that corner to act as the trailhead, if you will, or the beginning of that multi-use path. And so the trees, that's why we're here, the trees. So we walked the site. What I did is I split this, so I blew it up a little bit. There are a few grand trees that will be preserved in front of the office building in that curve. And the multi-pass will meander through that or be, at back of curb, it's under design. And then there's one tree in the office building. And then a couple in the shed and in their truck parking area. This is the east side. They're going to try and frame the driveway. There's 2 tulip poplars. They look very close to the drive. This is not engineered yet. We've looked at those trees, but we feel that maybe we can frame that driveway with 2 tulip poplars, so they're not requested to be removed. The others are a grade F maple. It's being pruned, side pruned, and it's really in bad shape by the transmission maintenance. And then you got 3 other trees in their shed, covered truck staging area and sheds. You can tell the sheds are very linear in shape because trucks running up and down the aisles, and they have utility pole storage, and they can load equipment by just driving down, traversing across their yard, east-west, if you will. It will be a secured facility. You don't see necessarily the fence, perimeter fence, but there's little medians that you can see in the driveways where there'll be controlled access, so not anybody can just drive in and access their yard. So this is another, this is the beginning of maybe a berm, the shape of the berm behind the 75-foot landscape buffer, again, working with perimeter fence. And again, pavement and to meet stormwater requirements, a fairly large stormwater facility for the outfall. So staff recommends approval with the condition to plant 151 caliber inches of native canopy trees on the project site. Landscape plan to be approved by both DRB and DRC or TRC. Must use 4-foot chain link fences, tree protection barricades. Must maintain as many non-grand trees as possible in the narrow strip adjacent to the CWS access easement and project elements. Must have a certified arborist treat and prune all protected and grand trees to be preserved on the site. The site plan is to be further developed to satisfy the other requirements of the PUD and provide a landscape plan to be approved by both DRB and DRC. That's a repeat of item number 1, actually. But so with that said, we need to recognize Trey Litton with Forsberg Engineering. Good evening, Trey. Can you hear us, Trey?
Trey's muted right now.
Oh,
There we go.
Good evening.
Hey, Trey.
Trey, good evening. Who else is part of your team that I need to identify?
I know Kevin Banks is on with Dominion. I'm not sure if he's calling in or if he's dialed in.
Kevin Banks. I don't see his name listed. Any other folks?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. All right. Well, why don't you proceed with the chairman can proceed by swearing you in.
Okay, that sounds great. Well, Trey, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Excellent. Well, now the floor is yours. If you just state your full name and address for the record, and then you can present.
My name is Trey Linton with Forsberg Engineering. My address is 1587 Savannah Highway, Charleston, South Carolina.
All right, thank you. You may proceed.
All right, thank you, guys. I appreciate your time. I'm representing Dominion Energy on the project. I think Eric has done a good job of summarizing the application. There's a couple items I'd like to address or reiterate. He mentioned the PUD amendment. We'll state that the property is zoned a little differently than the parcels surrounding it. The parcels surrounding it are mostly medical use facilities, but the PUD amendment that we received allows for light industrial use with the utility aspect on the parcel. Both the city staff and city council supported that zoning. This site has been, as Eric mentioned, this site has been selected by Dominion to serve as the emergency crew quarters and utility laydown area for equipment and poles. So I think it's important to note it's not just for engineers and office people. It is for an emergency crew quarters that crews from all over the state will stay at in the bunks in this facility during an emergency. The parcel will serve over 250,000 people, and it'll provide an operations center, particularly during a hurricane event. The authorization of this variance will be for the public good, as it is necessary to have the equipment and crew within the community during emergency situations. I also do have, I didn't realize it until the plan was posted that my pictures did not go through to Eric, and I apologize for that. I do have pictures of each of these individual trees if I have the ability to share those as an exhibit.
I think Scott can allow that.
Yeah, Eric, you'll need to stop, just hit stop share, and then Trey, you
Okay.
can hit share screen once it, so.
So I hope y'all can see my screen now.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I'll scroll through each. I have pictures of each individual tree, Eric.
Mhm.
So here is the tree number 3 that is on the plan that was provided. This is the 47-inch quadruple maple.
That was an F, by the way.
This is tree number 4. This is a 30-inch poplar tree. This is tree number 5, 27-inch poplar. Tree number 6, 25-inch beech. Tree number 7, 44-inch magnolia. Tree number 8, 25-inch water oak.
Keep in mind, that's the special exception tree.
Tree 9, 29-inch oak. And tree 14, 24-inch white oak.
Very good, Trey. Thank you.
So Trey, this is Chairman Adrian. If I could just ask, maybe go back through these, and then as we're looking at the picture, you can just explain to us the grade, because I think these are mostly D grade trees. And I mean, when I look at the white oak, I can see the cavities and the issues. But if you would just let everybody on the board know how you came up with the grade that you did.
Sure. And for everyone, I am not an arborist. We actually had natural directions come out to the site and rate the trees. And then we walked the site separately with Eric Schultz later on for him to also provide his own grades. So the grades were provided by natural directions, not myself.
Okay.
But so I can probably pan back and forth between each if that's what you would like, Joel.
Maybe I just normally, when Eric has the pictures ahead of time, he'll typically go in and, the V crotch, very poor union, decay in the trunks and things of that nature, just so that not only the board, but anybody else can understand the grade of the tree and the health of it.
Trey, maybe could you go to your site plan and zoom in and zoom out?
Yes.
There you go.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Okay, so here's tree number 3, the first tree. It was a grade F. It was a quadruple maple. Natural directions noted stump sprouts. Again, here's the picture.
Okay.
It was being severely side pruned. That's on the edge of the transmission line. Very bad crotch union.
Okay. Thank you.
You want me to go through each one right now, Joel?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, this is tree 4. This is the 30-inch poplar. This is tree 4 right here, was given a grade D, V-shaped crotch, condition poor. So that's the tree again.
Yep, I see it. Okay.
This is tree 5, 27-inch poplar. Here's where the tree 5 is. It's given a grade D, utility pruned, forked, condition poor. Again, that's the tree.
Mhm.
Tree 6, 25-inch beech. Here's where it's located. It was given a grade D. As mentioned, it had decay and the condition was poor. That's the picture again. Here's a 44-inch magnolia, tree number 7. That's the location. It was given a grade C. It said storm damage in poor form, condition fair. Again, that's the picture of the 44-inch magnolia. Tree 8, 25-inch water oak. It's given a grade D by natural directions. It said hollow base, forked, condition poor. Tree 9, 29-inch oak. That is up here at the front near the office.
That ended up being a red oak.
29-inch red oak was given a grade C, condition fair. And tree 14, 24-inch white oak was given a grade B. There's the picture of it.
Okay, thank you.
Good job, Trey. Thank you.
Thanks.
That was very helpful for me, so I appreciate that.
All right, so I'll go back to screen share now. Am I able to do that, Scott? Yeah.
That's correct.
Everybody see that?
Yep, we got it. And then Trey, we didn't want to cut you off. I don't know if you're done presenting.
I am done presenting. Thank you.
Okay, fantastic. So Eric, other than the emails we discussed earlier, is there anybody that was registered to speak in favor or opposed to the application?
Mr. Chairman, nobody registered to speak in favor or oppose this specific agenda item. And again, those 9 emails that kind of lumped all applications together. I will note. And also the advertisement is a variance for 7 trees, but because the red maple was verified to be an F, it's really 6 grand trees. And then the water oak is a special exception. So 6 and 1.
Okay. Thank you. Then we will close the public portion of the meeting for this agenda item, and we'll open it to the board for discussion and comments. And I'll start and again say thank you, Trey, for going through the pictures with the location on the plan. My first question, actually, Eric, would go to you, because it looks like the upper left corner of the office structure is in that 75-foot buffer. Did you address that? I thought maybe you did.
So I think there's some language in there that because this is required to go through DRB, I think we left a little bit of looseness in that the office building could address the public realm. So the main purpose of the buffer was to keep all the industrial utility type use and structures, you know, behind a curtain of vegetation, but the office building could sneak forward if DRB allowed it. And I might note that DRB, it was scheduled to go in front of DRB, but DRB really wanted the tree issues to be resolved before they heard it in front of that board. So that may be a little, you know, we talked about how to address the public realm. There might be a nice plaza built out in front of that facility to, you know, part of the requirements for the PUD, when you amend the PUD, you know, one question that is asked is why are you varying from, why do you need to vary from the existing zoning? And if you do, what is the benefit to the public good? Well, the benefit, as Trey alluded to, is that we have people in close when there's an event. But the other one is that they're going to work with the city to build that multi-use path, do a few interpretive signs across there, may even add some exercise stations, and then have some kind of built element at the corner of Henry Tecklenburg and Savage to really announce that this is the beginning, the trailhead or the terminus of this multi-use path. So yeah, that answers that question about the building.
Okay, thank you. I think in my opinion, the pictures were very informative. And I think pictures are an example of why a broad email of don't ever cut a tree down just doesn't really ring true or make sense in any situation. Everything is case by case. And when you look at the poor form of these trees and that an arborist is educated in these trees is, you know, basically stating that they're very poor in health. You know, I don't see where they should personally stop the construction, the development, but that's my opinion.
So I have a general comment, which is I understand the condition of the trees. It would be very helpful to receive a full package, even if I need to pick it up, because I have one opinion based on what is sent versus the stuff that you add, Eric, that we see, you know, during the presentations. But I guess I'm a little concerned. I'm a lot concerned, as I understand we do a lot of our evaluations based on the condition of the trees, but these trees have existed for sometimes hundreds of years in those conditions, and there seems to be a justification of cutting down trees where they're still serving a purpose just because of the rating of the trees. And maybe we need to put a little more emphasis on redesigning buildings to support trees that may actually flourish even in not optimal conditions. And that's just my thought.
Very good thought. Very good thought. You know, we've struggled with this for years, Kelvin. I think to partially answer your question or address your concern, the reason that we ask for a professional to go out and evaluate the trees is to clearly understand the condition, and that may be used as a tool to make a more sound land planning decision. I totally get it. These trees in this condition have environmental value. You know, their habitat, you know, birds are, you know, nesting in them, roosting in them. You know, there's a lot of benefits. But when you want to alter that parcel and develop and add buildings and surface parking lots, we use this evaluation as a tool to help guide a more sound land planning decision. So I don't agree with, you know, every C and D grade being removed. Absolutely not. They can be preserved as long as you give them good green space and they're not going to eventually fall apart and damage a car or a building. But, you know, so this exercise, you know, had, I believe, 2 B grade trees, and just unfortunately their location and the program for this operation, they just couldn't find a way to work around them. So the other trees out in front of the office building closer, there's a nice cluster out there, and we're actually higher grade trees because of the land. That's a higher point on the parcel. So the others, if you can see, are kind of clustered around the isolated wetlands. It's already kind of low. And so anyway, I'm not advocating the removal of every B, C, D grade tree at all, but I'm just stating that that exercise is done to fully understand the site, fully understand the condition of the trees. And then once you introduce a target, you know, however far away it may end up being, is that a good thing? So anyway.
Thank you, Eric. Is there anybody else that has questions or comments? Yes, Amanda.
A couple of things, and partly it's in response to Kelvin's question, you know, and it really depends on the tree species as to how long something is going to be contributing as a live plant material. And then you have the issue of, even if you work around it, if it has structural issues, you know, it's a public endangerment potentially. But my real, you know, and I didn't see all those trees had real issues. I do not see, I think it's incorrect to, I don't see the poplars at the entry off of Henry Tecklenburg that are D grade. They're really close to the curb cut. You're going to have big trucks coming in and out of here, bucket trucks and the like. And no offense to anybody, but I just don't see those being feasible to retain.
I agreed. Trey and I looked at those, and you know, we were thinking we could neck down that driveway because it's not a public driveway. It's just their truck access. You have to have the radius, as you mentioned, larger trucks. The main access is off Savage. But so we looked at that, and it's still in design. They haven't gotten full-blown, you know, comments from traffic and transportation, but I agree it's going to be tight. But with an arborist as one of my conditions, we'll be hopeful. But and it may be that unfortunately we don't like people to come back and ask for additional requests, but that's our hope there. Trey, you may add something if you wish.
Yeah, we have not pinned down that driveway location yet. When we first submitted to TNT, they did give us a little bit of pushback. We would like to have 2 driveways on Henry Tecklenburg. So that's showing this now with the right out at this location because they would not allow us a full access drive. But we'll certainly study that further and see if there's another location where we can get a second driveway access on the Henry Tecklenburg.
Well, it looks like you're taking out, it's hard to read on this though. It looks like the driveway that's further to the west, nearer to the office building, has more potentially protected trees in its path than does the one that we're talking about. Am I right or wrong with that? I can't read it.
You are right. And that driveway we're looking at now, shifting that closer to Savage for sight vision reasons, because it's close to the curve.
Mhm.
That would make sense.
Yep, yep, yep. And then there are less trees as you go that way too.
That's
Right.
correct.
Yep, yep. Because it'd be nice to have that buffer be as thick as it possibly could be.
Yes,
Trey,
sorry, go ahead,
Trey,
Eric.
we're not designing your project here, but with that said, is there a possibility that that could be a dual, like if it shifts to the right to the east end of that parking lot, then there could be a little peel off for the trucks to enter into the yard and eliminate the one opposing Physicians Drive? I'm just,
I don't know if that's feasible, just for the reason that they like to keep this employee area would be gated separately from the laydown yard,
I
because
see.
they don't like to intermingle the two.
Right. Okay, well, that's not really tree related, but sorry for getting off past there.
All right. Are there any other comments from the board, or is there a motion to be made? Anybody? I guess I'll say Jeff or Paula, do y'all have any comments, or Amanda, Kelvin, someone want to make a motion?
Hey, Joel, this is Jeff. I'll make a motion in favor of approval with staff recommendation.
All right. There is a motion for approval with staff conditions by Mr. Webb. Is there a second to his motion?
I'll second. Sorry, I was on mute earlier. It's Paula.
All right, a second from Paula, and I will just go through the roll. Ms. Martin,
Reluctantly in favor. Aye.
okay, aye in favor. Ms. Murphy,
I in favor.
Mr. Webb,
I in favor.
Mr. UG.
Also reluctantly in favor.
All right, and Mr. Adrian is also aye in favor, so it will be approved 5-0. Trey, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And that'll move us to our final agenda item today, which is item B3, Central Park Road, the application number 210804B3, TMS number 34003000007. And request a special exception from section 54.327 to allow the removal of one granite tree zoned SR1.
Okay, very good. Central Park Road, James Island. This is the application submitted by an attorney's office, Lesserman and Associates. This is their request for a special exception. We'll get into the details in that in just a moment. The site is located on the north side of Central Park. Has a flag type shape. Zoned SR1. Existing conditions, not the entire site, but the end closest to where the tree in question is located. It does extend further to the north here. The tree, in this case, is a standout tree, meaning that it's very visible. It's that tree that looks like a shadow a little bit northeast of the house in that grassy area. As you can see here, it's a multi-stem persimmon tree. This is the survey of the entire tract. Again, the tree is located in that bubble. The two lots that are adjacent to the flag pole portion of the lot. You see two lots there. It's the second lot in, and the tree is just to the north or east, I guess, actually would be north arrow shown here. That's a blow up, a bubble, the bubbled area. The tree is a C grade quadruple stem persimmon tree. Blew it up and put a circle around it. This is the exhibit submitted by the applicant's team, Seaman Whiteside. Again, a photo with the tree protection around it, which the city required. I'll get into the details there. We view a tree that is physically and visibly connected, sharing one root system, so therefore one tree. Every stem that is 6 inches in diameter. If it measures to be 6 inches in diameter or greater, you count that. So this is an 8, 9, 11, 11 persimmon. And this is the arborist report letter from Natural Directions. This is an exhibit showing that if the tree were to be approved for removal, this is the mitigation plan. So all the smaller green dots are mitigation trees proposed. This is their open space element and landscape details. The applicant asked me to add this exhibit, and Kelvin, we'll address your earlier comment, but due to COVID-19, it's kind of an unusual thing, but if they were here, they would be in person, they'd be presenting this and laying this down in front of you. This shows the SCDOT encroachment permit, the driveway as proposed, how it ties into Central Park, and the access and roadside management standards that they followed to get that driveway approved. We're actually a new street. I shouldn't say driveway. It's actually a new public street tying into Central Park Road. So again, that's a new street, new public street. The access and roadside management standards that they follow. So now I'll get into city process and photos. Keep in mind that tonight we're addressing it's labeled, it's, advertised as 54-327. That's the general tree protection ordinance. But when you get into the specifics here, this standard says removal of a grand tree shall require approval of a variance except for grand trees listed under category 3 or 4 in section 54-331, which shall require approval of a special exception where the board finds that the tree is in poor health, that removal of the grand tree will allow protection of a specimen tree as defined herein, which would otherwise be removed if the grand tree is saved, or that the grand tree is located within a proposed building footprint, street, road, driveway, drainage way, or parking area, and no other reasonable design or economically reasonable alternative exists to save the tree. And again, this is a snippet of the category 3 list of trees, and you can see the persimmon listed as a category 3. This project was, even though it has a base zoning of SR1, back in 2017, the ordinance allowed for a cluster development to be considered on an SR1 zone property. That was that's what was pursued. And in November of 2017, the concept plan went to the Planning Commission and was approved with a couple conditions. One, the proposed tree removals require approval by the Board of Zoning Appeals prior to the preliminary plat and road construction plans being submitted to PRC. And drainage easements shall be evaluated to confirm that they will meet or exceed the required capacity of stormwater. Just note the layout of this particular concept plan. You come in off of Central Park Road, then there was a planned dead end stub street. It came in and then it kind of split and did created a block. They started the tree removal process. The first BZA trip was in March of 2018. Note that above that second lot in from Central Park Road, that tree was not shown. And they went through the approval process and got a few trees approved. Based on that plan or that approval, they actually considered and did come back to the board in June of 2018 and sought approval for a couple additional trees. And again, that tree was not shown. Many months and a lot of review and effort on both the applicant and the city proceeded. And finally, we got to a point where the preliminary plat was approved in January of this year. And again, the tree was not shown. And there's that approval. Subsequent to that, the road construction documents, these documents are stamped by our engineering division, so the stamp looks a little different from planning. But in May of 2021, after months of review and effort, and the road construction plans were approved. Subsequent to that, there was a pre-con meeting, and the tree barricade inspection occurred May 14th, and it failed. And that was due to the installation of the required tree protection barricades, number one. But as I traversed through the site, I came across the persimmon tree. Note where the silt fence is shown to be installed, basically on the perimeter on the property boundary. So oftentimes I'll be following that silt fence line and then enter into the woods to see a specific tree. But I was just doing that, and I became a little bit confused because there's the silt fence and there's a tree that I just kind of wandered into. And I'm like, well, it's not shown on the plan. It's definitely connected and physically connected at the base, and the stems are greater than 6 inches. So is the silt fence in the wrong location, or is the tree, what's going on here? So it was verified that the silt fence was placed on the property boundary. And it is an 8, 9, 11, 11, total 39 persimmon tree, a C grade, which requires a 17-foot tree protection zone. Obviously, a persimmon tree is a native tree to South Carolina. I would consider this a perimeter tree that can be easily preserved by shifting the road. And the tree provides a visual edge to the neighboring property. And I inserted that little, that red line is not the exact property line, but in my opinion, it might have been perceived, and the facts are the facts, that the surveying crew as well as the consulting arborist missed this tree. And it might have been because the neighbor was manicuring or maintaining the lawn, if you will, around this tree, actually on the neighboring property. And, it might have been perceived that that tree was on the neighbor's property, but where the property line ended up, and if you do a boundary survey, you kind of locate your pins and what have you, I would think you would pick up that this tree was inside the boundary for the property to be developed. So here's the tree. What we did is we notified the owner and the team. They had to go out and locate the tree. They obviously had their consulting arborist evaluate the tree. We consulted with our legal team, And because we can do just what happened here, we can barricade the tree that was re-inspected. They addressed all the other deficiencies with the other tree protection barricades. And if you've driven down Central Park Road, there's vegetation removal operations proceeding right now based on the approved plan. But we stated that, you know, this cannot be a staff level approval. The tree happens to be in your proposed road. So you would have to go to the board to seek a special exception to remove it and or redesign the road. And so in preparation for my recommendations for denial is, again, a perimeter tree. Let me go up to this. If this tree had been located originally, you know, being a perimeter tree versus being an interior tree where it might have, you know, been in conflict with a proposed lot or road or a stormwater facility, but being a perimeter tree, in my opinion, if this tree had been picked up originally, the land planners would have been very easily been able to bypass this tree, meet the 17-foot tree protection zone, and you know, considered preserving this tree from day one. Again, I want to go back to this plan, the preliminary plat. I'll just stop there. As you can see, there was a decision to come off of Central Park Road and split that public road to put a B grade tree in a island. So just a couple 100 feet down the street heading north, if this C grade tree had been shown, they would have been able to maybe just shift the whole road, come in on a different curvature and get back to where they wanted the road to be, bypassing the C grade tree beyond this C grade tree. So, you know, perimeter trees are a little different than interior trees as far as when it comes to, I think, making land planning decisions. So, again, staff recommends to deny the request, and if the board agrees, it has to be noted that the tree exists in a proposed public road, and they would have to bring back the road construction plans, revised road construction plans to demonstrate that the existing tree will be preserved and will not have any encroachments within the required TDC. So with that said, I'll go back to their exhibit. And it is now time to identify the development team. And we need to promote Ellis Lesserman, Les Phillips, I believe Bob Pickard is the Levi. Les or Ellis, can you hear us?
Yes,
Mike
I
Russell?
can. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Mike Russell is part of their team. Who else, Ellis?
Oh, thank you, Eric. You mentioned Les Phillips and Mike Russell. If you have Bob Pickard or Joshua Craig, or I should say.
Yeah, that's with the Levi Grantham.
Yes, sir.
So, Mr. Chairman, you have a number of individuals. I think that once we get them all heard, as if they can hear us, you'll swear them in.
Yeah, I think what Eric might be easiest. Ellis, are you going to start the presentation?
I would, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, then I think what I'll do is I'll swear you in, and then anybody else that wants to speak, I'll just swear them in as they kind of come online to talk and present.
That sounds good.
So, Ellis, you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Excellent. If you'd state your full name and address for the record, and then the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Ellis Leesman. My law office is at 418 King Street in downtown. And I'm here on behalf of the applicant, along with several others who will speak later. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for the opportunity to speak to you this evening and to make this request for a special exception. Eric ran through a lot of the history, and I got to know Eric as a result of this project, as well as a lot of other individuals with the city, and have been able to appear before this group before as well. Again, I believe as Eric had already mentioned, we have a single persimmon tree that is in the proposed path of the roadway. That's a grade C tree based on Mr. Russell's firm Natural Directions, their grading. And it's a category 3 tree based on the city's classifications, meaning that a special exception can be available. So first, let me just address perhaps the first question is, why would this tree have not been included? So we have a declaration from Mr. Cleve Gillette with Parker Land Surveying, which has been submitted to the city. And it indicates, as you may have heard at various points, when you have a multiple trunk tree, is it a single tree or is it multiple trees? And as Eric had mentioned, in the city's belief and interpretation, anytime that something is connected above ground, it should be considered as a single tree. From the photographs that were shown, you can see that you have, it's very close to ground level. And at the time in 2017, when the professionals were doing the land surveying, although other multi-trunk trees were included on the plan and went through the process, this one was not included. Because when it's considered as 4 trees, as the surveyor considered it, it's an 8, a 9, an 11, and an 11. If you do add those together, it does exceed the DBH threshold, though, to be considered a grand tree. And so we're here before you after consulting with the city about this to request a removal, a special exception for this single tree, if it's deemed as a single tree by the city, which it has been. Eric mentioned some of the background, and I just would like to speak a little bit to that. It's been a 5-year process, and Eric showed you a summary of that in terms of the concept plan, the different documents that have come before the BZA, the approved preliminary plat. As you'll note, in each one of these plats and diagrams, the road location is in the same place. And Les Phillips with Seaman Whiteside is here to explain that's for a reason. You know, the shape of the property again has sort of flagpole or almost a panhandle type shape. The road has to be located at least 220 feet away from Flint Street. Based on where the road is, it's currently 222.7 feet away. So it really can't adjust its location. Also, if you look at the document that we are looking at, the image we have right now, you can see that there are 3 B grade trees that are saved as a result of the configuration, and 1 C grade tree now, if it's considered a single tree again, that we would ask to be removed. So a lower grade, lesser category tree, those other trees are oaks, and of a higher category, would be saved as a result of this current road configuration. Another thing I'd like to point out about the map that's in front of you is you can see the significant amount of drainage and stormwater infrastructure that are present. There are multiple stormwater ponds. There are also dry ponds too, that you can see. This is a concept plan. This is a cluster plan that's been approved so that it maximizes green space. Eric, if you could show the tree mitigation plan, that gives us the whole document.
Yes.
The whole parcel. Thank you, sir. So, ladies and gentlemen, now you can see again those 3 grand trees that are saved and all of the stormwater infrastructure that's present on the property, which is a benefit to the neighborhoods below and above it. And also is because the city although it had never been formally designated as a special protection area under the city's stormwater design standards manual. During the process, it was designated as a special protection area, meaning that it must meet the most heightened drainage requirements that the city has. And those require a lot of infrastructure, as you can see, the placement of which is particular. And as part of the 5-year process that's already happened, Kinsey Holton and Matt Fountain with the city have been through an extensive review of this project. Charleston County's engineers have, OCRM, as well as DHEC, Shannon Hicks and Bo Ellis and others have put this project through a technical review. A technical review committee review is chaired by Eric, and we went through at least 10 rounds, I believe more, over the process. An OCRM review for coastal zone consistency, and all of the other approvals that have resulted in all of the permits and everything that needs to happen being now in hand. Other than the judgment call that was made by our surveyor that this would not be considered a grand tree and therefore its removal would not need to be requested from this group. But now we are here based on the city's interpretation that it is and should have been included to make that request. So you can see again on the mitigation plan where 224 caliper inches of trees will, from the prior interactions with this board, will be planted. This one tree, the persimmon, if you add it up, if you add those 4 trunks together, it's 39 inches. My client understands the unusual situation where we're coming to you now to request this tree that was omitted previously and would propose a condition that we mitigate at a 2-to-1 ratio, meaning that we place 78 inches of additional trees in exchange for this removal of these 8, 9, 11, and 11-inch trunks, which together are a 39-inch conglomerate. You can see from the document that's currently been shown that there are areas through the property where the additional plantings could be made, the additional mitigation could be made, and we would tend to use the same sorts of trees that are in this mitigation plan here, but would be happy to use persimmons or whatever other types of trees that the BZA may direct in its discretion. You'll see to the far left, there is a significant buffer area, which is how this open space requirement for the cluster plan was met, where there will be room for additional trees as well. So again, the persimmon is located directly in the path of Highcroft Avenue. The location of that entry road is not subject to being moved in any reasonable alternative design based on the infrastructure that's otherwise required under the city's stormwater standards, as well as the DHEC requirements based on the distance between this encroachment to Central Park Road and Flint Street. So the interaction of those requirements require that the road be where it is. Again, it also allows for those other B-grade trees to be saved, and including the one that you can see in the island. There's also a C-grade oak that's being saved. You can see just below that upper stormwater pond that would, other trees would become affected. The junction boxes and everything that's been through hundreds of thousands of dollars of analysis and approval through this process would basically be modified and discarded in a way that we believe is unreasonable and economically not feasible. Because as you can see from here, they're preserving, through your prior approval, a good collection of trees, planting a lot more trees that will grow into higher caliber, better trees than the ones that have been removed and the one that we're asking to be removed. So for those reasons, we believe that we are well within the standard for the special exception. Again, it is a single tree, but we did not omit that intentionally in any way. That was omitted because our professionals believed that it was 4 trees that could be removed as of right, rather than a single tree that could not. Mike Russell is here to speak to the condition of the tree as a C grade, that it's 4 stumps or 4 trunks as a result of stump sprouting, which is considered an unhealthy aspect of the tree itself. Again, it's in the proposed location of this infrastructure, this roadway, which cannot feasibly be moved for reasons that Mr. Phillips can elaborate upon. So I appreciate the time before you. I know the agenda is shorter with those deferrals. I don't mean to wear out my welcome, but again, this is a significant matter. This is a 5-year process that has been completed. There's this omission that we would respectfully ask for you to address through a special exception, because a special exception would be appropriate. Mr. Chairman, I am ready for any questions, but I think that what I'd like to do, if it's in the pleasure of the group, is to have you please call upon Mr. Les Phillips with Stephen Whiteside to swear him, and he can speak further to our presentation and to our issue.
All right, thank you so much, Alice. That's it, Mr. Phillips. I see you're muted. If you could unmute. All right.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I got you. Les, you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Excellent. If you would state your full name and address for the record, then you can begin.
Les Phillips. The address is 501 Wando Park Boulevard, Suite 200, Mount Pleasant, South Carolina, 29464.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, board. Thank you, Eric, for putting this together. Thank you, board, for hearing us. We're coming to get a special exception for the removal of this persimmon tree. As Ellis Leisman has stated, we started the process with a survey that was conducted back in 2017, and fulfilled our application for a concept plan submittal utilizing that survey. Eric, could you, if you wouldn't mind, scrolling back up to the concept plan approval showing the initial layout, please?
Yes. Actually, I think I go down.
There you go. As you can see, that was the initial layout. We had bypass pond systems in the right-hand side of the site, but we also had 7 lots with a little stub road coming in. Throughout the process with the engineering review with TRC, it was decided that this site would fall under special protection criteria, which, as Ellis Leisman stated, is a heightened review and meeting higher standards for stormwater than a normal site would. With that, Eric, if you wouldn't mind going back to the previous exhibit. Perfect. The site has been revised multiple times, and more drainage has been added each time to meet the heightened criteria that's set forward by special protection area. As you can see, the lots have already been modified and have been squeezed down. They currently sit ranging from 82 to 85 feet in depth. The roadway itself was put in place as a design to meet the criteria as Ellis Leisman stated by DOT, and then come in. We are saving the B grade tree because it is off the property line far enough to be able to split a roadway. As you can see, the persimmon tree is not. It's too close to the property line to be able to split the roadway to be able to do that. So to be able to make the drainage system work with the road system and the lots in that area, we pushed the roadway as far to close to the property line as we could to allow for that drainage system to be put there. I also stated that this has been through many reviews, not just by the city of Charleston, but Charleston County, DHEC, OCRM, and DOT to make sure that everything in this area works to meet all the requirements from those local agencies. So the design has been thought through by a lot of different comments, a lot of different reviews, and has come to this one layout. It was brought to our attention that the persimmon tree was located on site, as not shown by our survey. And so we are asking for the removal of this as it sits currently in the roadway design. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is there another person that would like to be recognized?
Mr. Chairman, we do also have Mike Russell with Natural Directions here. If anyone had, I think that Les and I have probably covered the salient items, but he
Okay.
is available as a resource to the group, to the board.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Eric, were there any specific comments or people in favor or opposed to this application that wanted to be heard?
What I'd like to do first, and to stick to protocol, we do have a system in place. Individuals have to register to speak. I get that printout from our admin folks. So we do have one individual registered to speak in opposition, and we will recognize her, Franny Henty. Franny, can you hear us?
Yeah, a lot of folks tried to, thank you so much, Eric, and thank you all for your service. And a lot of folks
Hey,
tried to
Franny,
get
Franny,
on.
this is Chairman Adrian.
Franny, yeah, hold
I'm
on.
gonna swear you in and then state your full name and
Okay.
address before you begin, okay?
Yes,
Okay, you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth to help you God.
absolutely.
Okay, then state your name and address, please.
Francis Warren Henty, and I live at 615 Flint Street.
Thank you.
I live adjacent to the property.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Okay. The first thing that I would like to say is that I've tried to reach out several times to these folks and talk to them about their plan, because we hired a stormwater scientist after a surveyor. Let's see, there was Chris Wanamaker, who was at a TRC meeting, and he's from the county, and he reported on the intake pipe. Well, I begged him and the staff of the county to come out here, and I tried to contact him 3 times and say, are you sure you're right? Because our yard is a drainage pond because of that pipe. And he would not come out. He refused to. So I hired a surveyor named Chris Knight, and he came here and he reported on that intake pipe. Okay. And indeed, Chris Wanamaker, who the developers referenced as someone who's there, they've looked and they've weighed in. Sure enough, Chris Wanamaker was inaccurate. I took my surveyor's report. He said whatever he needed to say to have Jim Neal from the county, who's no longer with the county, come out here and do a major improvement. It has improved us significantly. However, we still have what's known as common enemy doctrine infraction, where Wes Linker is going to be meeting to go over this with some staff tomorrow. So the county got it wrong when they reported on the intake at a TRC meeting. Okay. Now, another thing is hundreds of thousands of dollars could have been spent on getting the numbers done accurately. The thing that concerns me the most is that this was not brought out by you guys, by the developers. This was like that if Eric Schultz had not walked the property, you would not have known about this protected tree. And please do not allow the removal. We count on you to lead and make prudent decisions to help us to be good stewards of our land, and our children and grandchildren will inherit one day. This item should have been caught by the studies during due diligence and TRC. It's been going on for 4 years. Protected trees are valuable. They store water, clean the air, and they're beautiful. Please protect our natural resources. I re-listened to the meeting that I was at, that so many of us were at, on November 15th, 2017. Bill Eubanks, who I was told by Betsy LaForce from Coastal Conservation League, was removed from Seaman and Whitesides for this project. He reported that they had arborists study this or thoroughly look at it. We had our renowned hydrological expert commission for many of your taxpayers raise money through the Coastal Conservation League and found additional misassumptions of the ground conditions regarding the stormwater. It's my understanding from city staff that the applicant is suing the city for holding up their plan, and they paid a little over $1.5 million and they want $7 million buyout. Could the applicant, or wait a minute, on all truth, Jenny Honeycutt told me about that $7 million figure. I'm sorry, I'm getting a little bit excited. Could the applicant not seek relief through in resolution through as a licensed professional, their engineers, could they go the route of the E&O insurance for this? You know, I mean, for whatever it's going to set them back, and it shouldn't set them back that much, instead of us losing a grand tree, because I, as a licensed professional in South Carolina, as a realtor, I have to have E&O insurance if I make missteps. But really, thank you all for your volunteer service. I don't want to keep you anymore tonight. And thank you from your future and the future of your grandchildren to hold the line and insist on integrity and accurate numbers in reporting. Thank you.
Thank you, Franny. Eric, was there anybody else that wanted to be heard that was opposed to the application?
Nobody registered, no additional individuals registered to speak. So now we'll move into comments. You all received our printout again, and basically I have two comments, one from Gwendolyn Moore, 537 Flint Street. And dear members, I'm writing to oppose the removal of the tree. The other one is from Theodorsa Wade, 624 Flint Street. Dear members of the BZA and city staff, I'm writing to oppose the removal of the tree. So that's what came in through our Innovate, where people go in and write comments. The other 106 comments are all relative to other projects. However, we also have a means to submit written comments through boards@charlestonsc.gov. So this is an email system. And then, of course, they can email me directly. I, again, tried to organize the best I could. We had our admin staff organize and put them all into an email file, and we sent those out for your review prior to the meeting. But I think it's prudent that I do recognize the 10 that I have in my hand that are very specific to Central Park. And the tone of all of them is in opposition of the removal of the tree. There are a couple that I just point out. So the first one is from Harriet C. Revis, 509 West Wimbledon Drive, Charleston, South Carolina, 29412. I'm writing in opposition. And then later she writes, it appears that the roadway could easily be rerouted around the tree in question without compromising the stormwater plans that have already been approved by previous agencies. And it goes on to retain the greatness of the tree canopy. An individual that you just heard from, Franny Henty, she does not have her address on this particular email. Dear valued City of Charleston BZA meters, please do not allow this grand tree removal. We count on you to lead and make prudent decisions. And it goes on about the 4-year process, etc. The next one is from Susan Milligan, James Island, South Carolina. This is an unusual, one-of-a-kind, multiple trunk persimmon tree. Basically oppose, deny the special exception. This unique trees removed have failed to preserve and incorporate important natural features. The road into this subdivision can be modified to accommodate this grand tree to ensure that traffic will not be hindered. The next one is from Rebecca McSwain and Dr. Curry Coloma, 488 East Wimbledon Drive, Charleston, South Carolina, 29412. Adamantly opposed, unneeded variance. Basically, that's the tone of that one. Next one is from Jeff Moore, 537 Flint Street, Charleston, South Carolina, 29412. I am opposed to the request to remove another grand tree. Virtually the entire neighborhood, Laura Park is subject to flooding. That's not pertinent. That's about the tone of that one. Sorry if I mispronounce these names. I'm not very good with Razvan Koajakaru, 615 Yale Drive, Charleston, South Carolina, 29412. You know, I'm in opposition to removal of the tree. And again, the same statement. It appears the roadway can easily be rerouted around the tree. The individual that also left a comment in our Innovate system, Miss Wade, 624 Flint Street. Please see my letter. So she had a letter attached. I'm writing in opposition to the request of the removal of an additional grand tree. As neighbors, our biggest concern has always been flooding, not really pertinent. And again, the same statement appears in some of these emails. It appears the roadway can easily be rerouted around the tree without compromising the stormwater plans. Caitlin Kajakaru. Again, it's basically, I assume, almost like a stock email that went out in opposition. It appears the roadway can easily be rerouted. Katie Clay in opposition. I'm a homeowner at 1867 Halton Drive. Again, special protection area, soak up water, trees soak up water. And Ina Moore, 537, Gwendolyn Moore. Okay, say Gwendolyn, she also registered, left a comment, 537 Flint Street, opposed. So there are the emails that we received, and I tried the group for the record.
All right. Excuse me. Thank you, Eric. Do we go back now to the applicant and Ellis and see if he has any response to that?
Thank
Yes.
you, Mr. Chairman. Very briefly, again, looking at the document again that is in front of the board right now, you can see 7 grand trees in the front end of the property that are being saved. As Mr. Phillips explained, and as Mr. Holton, Mr. Fountain, the county's engineers, DHEC's engineers can all explain, modifying the plan here will result in a change of these ponds. And you can see at the top of those ponds near the northern, what I'll call the northern property line, there are 3 grand trees that are going to be spared and going to be saved based on how the ponds have been configured to work around them. The same with the other trees, the other 2 grade B trees. Based on where those are located, the ponds are configured around them to save. If you move one aspect of this design, it affects all of the others. The roadway itself can't be shifted up, again, because of the DOT standards and because of the B grade tree that we're already saving in the Rhode Island. The names that Eric submitted, I've recognized all of those names. Respectfully and candidly, they asked the city not to let us to complete the TRC process, which we completed. They asked the Planning Commission not to approve the project when it was approved. They asked for DHEC to not approve the NPDES permit. And when DHEC did do that, they threatened to turn DHEC into the state licensing board. One of them turned in one of the Seaman Whiteside engineers and wrote a grievance against him to the state licensing board. So there's clearly emotion. But that emotion is not what should drive this group. This group has a job that it does well. And in this case, that job is to apply a special exception request that indicates that if a proposed category 3 tree is in the path of the roadway, or if it's being requested to be removed so that other trees can be spared, that approval should be granted. And in the case of the infrastructure, if there's no reasonable alternative that's economically feasible. We've shown that. Again, Eric read several emails that use some magic words to say that that's not the case. But when we look at the city's standards and all of the other standards that we've had to meet, plus the DOT standards, we can see that we've demonstrated to this board that there isn't a reasonable alternative, because this plan and this aspect and this road location, so that all of this infrastructure can occur, has all been consistent. There was an error in judgment on the part, I guess I would say, I'm not saying he's wrong, but there's a disagreement in interpretation about whether this was a grand tree or not. So that's why we're here. And again, thank you for your time. But each of these issues has been addressed. This project is met with every approval. And we would ask again for this special exception to be granted because of all of that has resulted in the clear, the superior design, which is the one that's before you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ellis. With that, we'll close the public portion of the meeting for this application and it'll be open to the board for discussion and questions of the applicant if you have any. And I'll start. I'll say I understand why the entry to the property is located where it is. I love that we're saving that B grade tree in the island created by the ingress egress. I feel like that the persimmon tree. I think there is a chance to save it. I think that it would require the design of lots 3, 4, 5, and maybe instead of 3, 4, 5, it becomes 3, 4, or maybe it just becomes 3 for the entry location onto center to remain, for that B grade tree to still be saved in the island, but then to bend the road further into lots 3, 4, 5 to save the persimmon tree. That said, I'm just looking at it without scale and tracing paper to go over and actually see how we bend that road around that tree, and what the protection zone is, because what I'm looking at in yellow is most likely not the actual 17-foot radius or diameter, whichever it was, that needs to be around that tree. So those are my thoughts, and I'll let other people speak at this point.
Joel, I tend to agree. I do take issue, and I do not agree that it would be easy to move the road, as a lot of the comments said, but it has not been shown to me that it would not be feasible to do so. The DOT distance is referring to the driveway separation at the road, I believe.
Correct.
And so that's not really relevant. So we're really, I think, talking about the shape of lots and the infrastructure. So I'm open to being shown that it is not technically feasible, but I'm not there yet. And my thought would be, if anything, well, the potential that it could be deferred to prove that I would have liked to see some sketches and exhibits that show that could not be done. The sewer could be rerouted, the storm drain could be rerouted. Like I said, it's definitely not easy. I totally agree with that. But that's just my initial thoughts.
I would also wonder, I guess I also do wonder about the size of the ponds and whether or not they can be reduced.
Maybe not Ellis, but maybe we can get, I'm sorry, I lost Les to address the pond size for us.
So those ponds, as you can see, Wet Pond 2 and Wet Pond 3 are part of a bypass system that take all the water that hits that Flint Street pipe and bypass it and put it into the canal. The dry pond 4 and 5 are for upper end event storage and overall site storage for the entire site. Through the TRC process, we had to meet special protection area requirements that escalated and maximized the storage. We are hitting all of those markers as per the review from City of Charleston TRC, Charleston County Stormwater, SCDHEC technical review, and the third-party review from Wolpert Engineering. This stormwater plan has been looked at and reviewed in depth, and those pond sizes cannot get any smaller than what they're shown right now. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Sorry.
If I might briefly, Board Member Webb indicated, and I believe that that others had also said that they may welcome the chance for a deferral so that we could present further information. And if, I think I heard perhaps 2 or 3 members of the board echo that. The applicant is willing to come back and do that if that would allow for some better clarity and a better base information on behalf of several members of the board.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ellis, because I think that I certainly would have no issue with a deferral if the applicant doesn't have an issue, because I'm in the same boat as Jeff. I'm not convinced that the interior part of the road couldn't get an extra little bend to it and save the tree. And I'll go back to say, I think that Eric might have mentioned it early on in the presentation that had the tree been listed as the 4 trunks combined to make the 1 grand tree, he most likely would have flagged it as something that needed to be worked around to begin with. I think that when I look at it, it seems like our lot count might change overall. So if there were, 60 lots initially, maybe we end up with only 59 after that road is reworked. But I certainly, if the board came up with the thought that maybe a deferral is best, then I certainly would support that.
I just sketched it out on my screen. And you can work around the tree. The question is, the radii coming in, on your, coming in past the blue tree that's, in the center of the island. It would take a good bit out of lot 4 and some out of lot 3, and lot 3 is, a bit of a piece of pie. It might make lot 4 smaller than, I don't know what the lot size requirement is in here. But I think it's worth taking a shot at it, because with my little drawing on a piece of paper stuck in front of my computer screen with a scale, it looks like it probably could be done. I can also see why the surveyor might have thought that that was not 1 tree, because often we have said, a tree, when it's clear that the tree is, several inches out of the ground and it's all coming out of 1 base. This one, I could see where I could see where somebody could misjudge that. So I'd support the deferral too. But I think the tree, it looks to me like it could be worked around without affecting the drainage offhand.
All right. So then, Paula, do you have any questions or comments you'd like to add?
And in consensus with the group, I think that's a reasonable request of the applicant.
Okay. All right. Then I would suggest that maybe we make that motion for a deferral and move along.
I make a motion, we move for deferral of this agenda item.
I'll second.
All right, so then we have motion for deferral by Ms. Barton, seconded by Mr. Webb. I won't do roll because I think we're all in agreement. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye in favor.
Anybody opposed, say nay, please. So it's unanimous to defer 5-0. And I would say that, Eric is very good at working with applicants. So y'all, when you sketch stuff up, just present to Eric. He'll let you know whether he thinks it should come back before us or if there's an opportunity to save.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Will do.
All right, y'all, thank you for your time. And that concludes the meeting for today.
Yes,
Thank
it
you.
does. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. See y'all.
Well, I'm not
Bye,
here.
guys.
Hope you all have fun.
Yeah, y'all have a wonderful evening.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Bye.